You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Weird Science Marvel Comics Podcast, episode 37, Legacy 537. I'm here, as always, with my man, Matt. What up, Matt?
What up, what up?
What up? And we have 3 issues total. It seems to be, as right now, I've reached out to a couple people to see if they would like to join me with some other things and have not had a return call. So we'll see.
Oh, no.
We'll see if that is the case. If not, me and you have 3 big books. But if I do get a hold of some people, we'll have a bit of a crazy tie-in to Blood Hunt and maybe even a new #1 book from, I believe it is Stephanie Phillips, but we'll see.
I read that crazy tie-in. I liked it. It's pretty good.
Yeah, we wanted to do that, and it's the whole Captain Britain, Captain You Kids nonsense, but we'll see. It just seems nonsense, but
it is nonsense.
I did ask some people to do that, and like I said, not only just that, but a couple of the other books, because there's a bunch of books this week, as they always are, but me and you always focus on the big stuff, and the big stuff really is this week would be Blood Hunt, obviously big, but also the ASM will be dealing with the main story, which is oversized in the number 50th issue, Legacy 944, and that threw me, and we'll talk about that when we get to it, but also the Ultimate Black Panther, the book that on my previous show on YouTube I said kind of just gets by with just being in the middle, where people love the, Ultimate Spider-Man. A lot of people fight about the Ultimate X-Men, and then in the middle of that is just ends up Black Panther, which just kind of does nothing much anyway. But we'll see. A lot of people like it, but we have a big question with that one to see if what people think, and if we're right. It really is a shame, but we'll see how that goes, because we're going to get right into this with the Blood Hunt. And me and you ended up giving the first issue of Blood Hunt like a 6.65, I think it was around. And what we said was we were expecting it to feel bigger. We ended up having the Blood Coven, these villains that were ill-explained and very much remind us of other teams like it that Jed MacKay have done on the Avengers. And so when we went in, my big play for me especially was we end up between these issues, you have a ton of tie-ins. And so if you want people to get involved in the event as a whole in the tie-ins, you really have to hit hard with the main book. I'm still not going to tell you that I think it hits hard. I'm not going to tell you it's bad. I think me and you both like this issue more than the first.
Yeah.
But in the end, I still think that my comment will be, and it's right now it is going to be, that this feels like it could have just served as a pretty cool Jed MacKay-verse tie-in with Avengers, the Doctor Strange, and the Moon Knight book. I think that it could have easily been a tie-in of Jed MacKay books, and we would have been good, and everybody would have been fine with it. To make it a 60-issue event, I think that was more of the bean counters, that they need an event in the summer to up the sales, have these issues come out, and it got way bigger than maybe even Jed MacKay would have said that it should have been, because it doesn't feel... It just feels like a Jed MacKay book deal. When you get the main characters talking or doing things, 99% of the Jed MacKay things, and it doesn't feel as big. I can't explain it.
No, I agree. I agree with you. I think some of the tie-ins I've read, I've 2 or 3, 4 of them. I don't even know. There's so many, but they've been okay, and they're not by Jed MacKay. They're from other people, and they're kind of doing their own thing, but kind of tying into this as well.
I mean, just think, a couple weeks ago, we liked the Amazing Spider-Man tie-in, amazingly by Zeb Wells. Didn't love the Blood Hunt Spider-Man #1 that we ended up having from, what's her name? I almost said Kathy Ireland. Justina Ireland.
That would be nice.
That'd be pretty crazy. And we liked the Avengers tie-in. That was a lot of fun that we had with Jed MacKay. But again, fun doesn't equal essential, and doesn't equal that this event, if you are a completist, is $300 or so, it seems. I think somebody did figure it out, and I'm like,
no way I'm spending $300 on this collection.
And what I think, too, when you get it with Jed MacKay, when he wants to go big, he makes something like the Blood Coven that we don't really know about, that seems cool and celestial and big, but instead I actually would have liked to have let's have some fun with this thing that we got in the Avengers, and maybe if it was a little bit less, we would have had more of that. I think it would have hit better with me. But it's Blood Hunt #2, written by Jed MacKay, art by Pepe Larraz, colors by Marte Garcia, and letters by VC's Corey Petit. I think the art's really good. again, there's nothing wrong with the story for me except for the fact that it just kind of is there. Like the idea of the overall story, some parts are dedicated to getting almost like the idea when you have a tie-in book, that's usually ends up where we get, okay, they're going to have to try to convince you where this fits in and whatnot. But these are starting to feel like the main book is trying to convince you where those things end up, because we just have random things of, hey, here we are with Blade going against the Avengers. We know that. We ended that crazy in the Red Band trailer. Even crazier because when he went to just slice and dice Doctor Strange, but he's gone back to the Impossible City and the Blood Coven, which again, I mean, do you like this Blood Coven? I was going to say
that he set them up as like they were going to be the big bads, but it's just Blade. Blade's the bad guy. These guys are just
they're
secondary.
There to just have extra guys that look cool, I think. But I don't think they look that cool.
No, I don't. I still get freaked out by that Bloodstorm one. I don't like that.
I know we're probably supposed to be freaked out by it, but I get freaked out in the way of, like, I don't like that. Like, what happens with these things? And I've heard other people, I've seen videos, I've heard where what happens is, and what I'll end up doing, Johnny Razorblades. The guy, the bleeding statue. Like, these names aren't hitting.
Okay, without looking at them, I don't know if you're on the page or not, but can you name more than two of them?
I will say that I know Cruel.
Okay,
Bloodstorm. I'm lying. I'm on the page. I was just going to go through. I was going to go, Megrum, Smoke Eater, Damascene, and the Unusual. I wouldn't know him. Even then, when you're fighting, because I guess Jed McKay's thinking, well, Iron Man doesn't quite know who Cruel is, so he's not going to call him by the proper name, but maybe you just do it so we get it, because he's like, man, your razor lines are fine. I'm like, now I want to call him Razor Line.
That should be his name, Razor Wire or something.
Razor Wire. That's what he says. Your razor.
He's just barbed wire or whatever.
Okay, I get Razor Wire. That fits with me, not Cruel. And then you also, you're going to get a line. Please tell me that we're not going to get, take care of them. We need some cruel and unusual punishment. You're going to tie them together to get a line.
I'm surprised they're not next to each other.
I'm surprised that there isn't one called Punishment.
Cruel, unusual, and punishment.
That's what I'm saying. They're like, get them, cruel and unusual and punishment. Like, so ridiculous. So it's like, get him. That's cruel and unusual, Megrum. And again, when I'm sitting there, I'm like, Megrum, like, okay, I saw you had a bunch of legs at one point, but I don't really know what happened. Smoke Eater, all right. Like, again, I keep saying, but maybe you could have set these things up and forgive me if this was in, say, the Dracula tie-in, or if it was in something like the Avengers, if they did. But at one point, you have Bloodstorm 1 talking crap and Dracula talking crap back of, you're a clone of me, and I'm this, and I'm that. And I'm like, where?
Where's the Blood Coven origin story? The tie-in to that, the miniseries before this, that we could get to know the characters.
How much I don't like the Blood Coven? Maybe I would have liked them if I knew more about them. And
I think so too. Yeah.
So if you were going to play this, Jed McKay has enough books that if you really wanted to put a backup in each one, the Blood Coven deal, or we've had these things where a story will go through annuals, or it'll go through have a one shot where it is an anthology where we get an introduction to all these characters.
I don't think he has an idea. I just think they look cool in his mind, and that's all there is.
And I said this on our indie podcast this week. So many times you get books and characters where it is like, hey, whatever you think is cool. A book called My Mother the Basketball, right? Mm-hmm. That. And I say, okay, I get that, but what is it about? And you're like, My Mother the Basketball.
He's a basketball.
By the way, I have a theme song that is My Mother the Basketball, but that's beside the point. That's why I just thought of it. But when you get blood, like Smoke Eater. Well, what about Smoke Eater? What's cool? Smoke Eater. Like, that's what it seems to begin and end at. Let's make something that sounds neat or looks cool, but never has any substance to it. So when you get these attacks again, and I'm not saying we seem very negative, but in the fighting with the Avengers in this of these characters, it does end up falling a little flat because I don't know them. So I can't say, I said this before, the first issue, I can't say, oh man, it sucks that Thor got a spike through his head because Thor's power set really works well against Smoke Eater. I don't know.
No idea.
You can't play that game. So in the meantime, you do end up, though, with, a couple of Avengers. They're in big trouble. Thor's bleeding out. You have Scarlet Witch, who at one point we thought did have the Darkhold, but that is now a character that is growing and showing over there in the Strange Academy time.
Yeah.
Blade's just like, oh, here I am. How does it feel, T'Challa? Now you're a monster. All these things going to then go, boom, with Find Me My Daughter. It's Blade who wants to find his daughter. So we go off, and I'm like, I don't know. I think this kid who looks like a Marvel version of Clown Hunter. Pretty cool. But all it ends up being is to have, Blade's daughter come in. And you said you like the design. Seems pretty cool. But in the meantime, I've read some of the Danny Lore stuff. It's just not that great. But this is okay.
I didn't read any of that, so it seems cool to me.
This works with it, and you get, a younger character. Some people don't like those kind of legacy or whatever characters, but this is her own character. And so she's, trying to save some people, beheading some guys. And when you get down to the nitty gritty of that, I think it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what I wish Jed McKay would realize with the things that he's done, like the Ashen Combine and the Twilight Court and the Blood Coven. Sometimes you don't have to go that big to get a big story. Because when you go back to the Daughter of Blade and Dracula hanging out with, that actually is pretty cool. Even though I said to you, and I think maybe some people will get a chuckle, somehow Dracula went and got his outfit at the House of Null. He looks like Null when he showed up. I'm like, that is weird.
What's
how
that
much
sword
he looks
called?
like
The Necro Sword?
Yeah, the Necro Sword. It looks like Null is hanging in this whole deal in a play where you did mimic the covering of the earth like you did in that as well. But
it's Null.
They're going often like, hey, and you have this back and forth because you do have Blade's daughter being a good gal on saying where Dracula, it says, these are all insignificance. I don't know why we want to risk our lives for insignificance. And she says, you mean innocent? Innocent, and he's like, whatever, jerk. And they move on. But again, when you're going through this, like, I like that scene, but then we're too quick out of it. I think that's another problem with this book a bit, is that you never can kind of rest because he wants to go big with multiple scenes. And it just feels odd because then we go off to Tigra and Hunter's Moon, who then kind of fight through vampires, but then hook up with Miles. The problem is that if you have read the Doctor Strange tie-in that came last week, this comes before that. So all you're doing is getting them to the place where they ended up in that time.
Yeah, I was getting, I was like, have I read this yet? Yeah, and it was the Doctor Strange.
And isn't that weird? The idea that, again, usually what you'll do is the tie-in will have to do the job of telling you where it came out of the event. Now, in this, the main book is playing catch-up to an issue that came out last week. And so you get that, but okay. You get a little bit more.
Because we were making fun of Doctor Strange for not answering the door like a normal person.
Yeah, and then he asked his astral self when we see that. And here, you want to know something that changes here that was one of our big problems? Tigra freaks out when he comes out. She did not. I said at the point, why aren't they reacting of why the hell are you coming out? And then we decided they've seen this before. The problem is we go through a page of Miles bitching and moaning that he doesn't know where to find out. He doesn't know where Doctor Strange lives. And it's that joke of almost, the village. I don't know the village. And then Hunter's Moon makes sense with Hunter's Moon of like, I don't know where it is. But maybe not even because of
this is even weird because normally when the building is connected to other buildings like you'd find
it's like a row of
now
things.
It's just like a regular house out in the middle of the street.
Yeah, it actually looks like a museum like by itself.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Because again, there's been times on Bleecker Street and that sort of thing where people come out. Remember there was an issue of, I don't know if it was a straight up Doctor Strange, I don't even remember who wrote it, but it was recent. But I like the idea that Doctor Strange thought that nobody knew that he was there, and all the neighbors knew, and they'd been covering for him for years. Like the idea that they all knew that he was there, and he was all worried that they'd find out. It was a really fun story, but you have this there. But she freaks out. He comes in, but they don't really ask like, "What the hell's going on?" She says, "You're hanging out at home as a ghost." But this, again, doesn't go quite with the dialogue we had before, and it's the same writer, so why not? But, yeah, the idea of his body being a vampire. If you are reading the Doctor Strange tie-in that came out already, This is repeat completely. I mean, you have a bunch of pages that we already saw, but you have to do that because not everybody's reading the tie-ins. But it is that weird way of the deal of I think you have to do the big things, but you have to assume that the people will buy, or you just have to go with the flow and say they need to buy that. If they don't, then they're going to have to figure things. I don't know how you play it because if you've been reading, it's kind of wasted pages. Now, when we talked about the Doctor Strange book, I said at one point, Miles did meet with Blade. And I remember he had like a Rubik's Cube type thing in his hand.
Oh, yeah.
And Hunter's Moon had the side glance at him, seemed to be aware of something. That totally doesn't happen here. And then something really wacky happens that everybody's surprised at. But we also had Victor Strange looking at the body, and that you don't see that here. I thought we were going to get more of that. We just end up really what you're saying in this so far is, hey, everybody, if you didn't read Doctor Strange tie-in, Doctor Strange is a vampire, but it's only his body and his astral self's okay. You don't even get the full X. It's very odd.
Yeah.
So then we go off, and now where you ended up, you have to go back to where you had Blade's daughter and Dracula. They get attacked by the entire Blood Coven, who comes in again. I think it might be overkill the way they're doing this, but they come in and you get that back and forth. I don't know if this is something that has been set up. I apologize if it did, but the idea of a back and forth, you're a false king and Lord Dracula. Dracula just says, kneel before Dracula. Get on your knees, jerks. I'm Dracula and you're a blood coven. You should be worshiping me. And then it becomes the idea of, I'm your clone, but I'm embarrassed. And this clone, I'm like, what?
Yeah, it would have been cool to see that origin.
That would have been cool as an origin thing that we said.
Yeah.
If we saw that, then this means something. And what I think is kind of a cool play is Dracula hanging out with Blade's daughter. All of a sudden, you got a clone son who looks like a giant alabaster statue that bleeds out its mouth, right?
Yeah.
Even Dracula would be like, really? I mean, I'm glad you're a clone because if you weren't, your mom would not be a good-looking lady. Like the idea, like, I don't know what's going on.
You got to put him down. He's
exactly.
Gross.
So he's there, but wouldn't it have been cool to know that and say, oh my God, what's going to happen if they go? But it's just, him saying it, Bloodstorm 1.
Dracula hanging out in the Ukraine or Russia or whatever.
He was supposed to be in Chernobyl and things like that. That ended up changing. And like I said, in the Blade book, you end up Blade drinking his blood, getting his powers, things like that. So, and again, Bloodstorm 1 to me sounds like it'd be like a side movie in freaking the Maverick series or something. Like it sounds like a plane. Sounds like a ship, right? Yeah, some stupid thing. All of a sudden, the president is in trouble. You got to save him. So then they end up
like Air Force One.
That's what I'm saying. Either that or like
Get off my plane.
Air Force Down or whatever the stupid
White House
Down. Like it's Bloodstorm 1. So it's talking crap, and this is this is trash talk 101. I'm going to tell you, nobody does trash talk like Carol Danvers and the Avengers. He says, and this is Alabama, Bloodstorm 1. A lord of monsters, a philosophy of the same. So he's saying that's our philosophy. We're monsters. That's our philosophy. And Carol swoops in with the Avengers, who already got their ass kicked. I mean, this Avengers team is just half of the team. The rest are ass kicked 101. Comes in, and the trash talk is because it's the philosophy. That's where she's going to go. When she says a lord of monsters, a philosophy of the same. That's what you have. If it's me and I'm trash talking, I did a lot of trash, I would not center on the philosophy. I would center on the monsters part. That would be like, you think you're monsters? Well, something, whatever. She says philosophy. Here's our philosophy. We have a lot to avenge. And I'm thinking, if I'm on the opposite side and I'm Bloodstorm 1, I would say, get to the Avenging, bitch. That I wouldn't even, they'd be so ridiculous. Like, I'd sit there and say, like, is that time out? Is that crap talk? Or are you just telling me your MO of what you need to do on your menu of the, your calendar? You got a lot to avenge. Oh, I really?
Well, they're laughing it up. They like it.
They think it's great.
That one razor wire or whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
smiling.
It shows you though when they clone Bloodstorm 1, suddenly what was not put into the clone is a funny bone.
Sense of humor.
They're laughing because she said, "Here's our." First off, it goes too far. Even if she said, philosophize that every trash talk, by the way, for me, ends with bitch. She says, philosophize this, bitch. And then you do, okay, we're talking again. Right?
Oh,
hey,
yeah.
That's what you need. Not like we have what I wish he's like, well, like, you want to do this now? Do you have you seem to be busy. What are you doing? And then they just fight. And have like, that's such a weird, bad line. It's a weirdly awful, stupid trash talk line. And you get where, and then, of course, Bloodstorm 1 now. Now I will know Bloodstorm 1 or Blood C. I even said it when I'm saying it. Bloodstorm 1. Megrim, incapacitate him while we Megrim. And you end up where what this play would be as it was Quicksilver there or even Flash, but it's Vision who grabs Megrim and starts flying around. At this point, I don't really know what this means. Like incapacitate him. And then the Vision tries to explain, but I don't really know the power set. I don't really know. Yeah, you get the bad guy out of the way, but it's not anything that's going to really inspire me. And then Carol says, not so tough now, when your pet brain bender is done. I'm like,
that must be Megrim.
And that's the thing is, when you're doing this, Jed McKay, please, if he's not listening. If you're listening, don't make up nicknames for characters that we don't know their names.
I like Brainbender better.
This is what I'm saying. If you think that that's a better name. If you think that Razor Wire,
I'm already calling him Razor Wire. I forgot the name.
Razor Wire. Don't start convoluting stuff with characters that we don't know. Like, everybody's going to show up and have a different name. Like, oh, yeah, look at you, you alabaster bastard. Like, it's the idea of Megrim, just say, you heard him say Megrim say that, but now, again, it's supposed to be trash talk. It's confusing.
And how would Carol know that that's the powers?
I don't know. And with that, if she doesn't, or whatnot, why didn't you avenge stuff, bitch, when you were up there in the Impossible City when everybody's getting their ass kicked? You could not even touch these guys then. You are down gods. Now you could do it. Now you're punching people. Now you're hitting them. Well, yes, you can say you learned your lesson, but what lesson?
Well, maybe she got clanged back into the negative zone and didn't.
Maybe.
like in her main.
Remember, in that, what she's wondering right now is, I wish that I could go talk to Doctor Strange, but I don't know where he was, where you had the best. But again, you're doing the stuff where now they're just at the table. But where are the stakes in the vampire story? But where are the things where at first they completely get obliterated? Thor, T'Challa, Scarlet Witch, they're out. Now you get where now just because they talk awful trash, now they can beat the crap out of them. And it doesn't feel like to me that it is okay, now they have a plan, even though Vision grabs the character who is being told to do something at that moment. This isn't something like they went in and like, get Megrim. Be funny. What happens is, beforehand, Carol's like, I got a plan. It starts with, okay, Vision, you grab Brainbender. And they get there, and nobody knows who's who. He's like, oh my God, he grabs the Razor Wire, who's not even Razor Wire. It was cool. Oh, I thought I was supposed to grab them. I thought they were Mindbender.
Well, isn't Megrim dead now? Because it looks like
I don't know.
It explodes.
Says that they're taking them up above the covering and into the sun. So we're letting her get a 10.
He's Supermander.
Yeah,
threw right into the sun.
And then you get how dare you? So we're in the second issue, and now it just ends up where we want to now beat you up a bit, so it's allowed. Because these guys, the whole coven, I said, they ended up in an alleyway to get, why? Why are you sending out everybody together just to take care of Dracula? It doesn't even seem to be that powerful at the moment, but they wanted to talk trash. And so you get this, then you get Prism Face, gets it right in the arm shattered. Again, I could not tell you right now, if you put a gun to my face or offered me $1 million, I would not be able to remember the name Damascene as a Prism person, a geode. Take that, geode. Like, what? So that their arm gets destroyed, also really, really weak. The idea that they are pretty much a prism of glass and whatever, and can just get shattered. And it is like, the deal. And also we see, I don't know, bald-headed lady, Smoke Eater. I remember the Smoke Eater seems to get hit by the shield that destroys her little potion.
I think they pretty much mess all these guys up. They're pretty dead.
Yeah, they're because then you end up where you have solar energy. I am filled with the sun creatures. Is that Doctor Strange that comes in as an astral projection? Because I'm looking at his outfit.
That's Vision.
Oh, it is Vision. So Vision comes in with solar energy filled with sun. Like, that's all you need. That solves everything. Vision better keep going up out of that cocoon. He better charge up and come down in solar energy, solar energy, solar energy.
Yeah, that's it. That's all that kills him.
That seems to give him a headache. Carol then tosses
a robot
Bloodstorm 1 in the sun. Here, you want to see a funny the hilarious progression. The fight starts. Smoke Eater starts getting a potion together. Oh my God, I'm gonna get that's all. I'm gonna smoke eat the shit out of this, right? Potion. That gets hit with the shield.
Yep.
Oh no! And then starts making another one. I mean, it legitimately seems to, and then gets Bloodstorm 1 to spills that one too. There's a second potion or the same one that keeps getting spilled. Oh no! And then you end up where you have Carol say, "We're better than you. We're the Avengers," and kind of punches a hole through this cocoon. You can, just a hint, you can do this while you're not fighting too.
Just that's all you should be doing.
You could have the Vision going up and gathering solar energy and broadcasting it below. Wow, Carol. And I'm sure we can come up with a lot of other characters that could do just this, doing that throughout the whole world. Case close, end. But we still have 48 more issues of this, so obviously they're not going to do it. But they could. You don't just pump a hole where you are there, and even then it's to shine light on the Avengers, which also, just saying, is shining down on Dracula.
Oh yeah, why is Dracula not going? I guess he's
maybe
depowered,
because he lost his deal, but you're not spelling that out.
He should be burning up in fire.
It'd be funny. He's like, "This is badass, but it's hot as hell. I'm burning up here." But he's like, take that. So now they're going to talk more trash, and that means no matter how dark the night, we make sure that the sun will always rise again. Okay, they hiss. No, don't have this as a spotlight on you. Attack them. They are weak now. Take care of them. But they're talking trash, and they're, oh my God, and that's where, oh my God, Blood Coven, fall back. Next time, Avengers, next time. And then they're like, oh my God. I love the idea that Sam is like, they're running? Well, no. Yeah, that's what they, did you think they'd do anything else? And then Carol pulls them back. Sam, don't go.
Aggressively pursue them.
Yes, these are the characters that you need to take down. They are, at this point, in a very unstrategic bunch together. Like, you have them in one spot. You are already punching holes, letting sun. Vision seems to be able to just shoot, solar energy
rays,
at them. Go after them. You just kick their ass, and then you even up the ante, and now you're pulling it back because it's an event, and we just started. That's it. I thought I liked this issue. But yeah, and then they're like, oh, what should we do now? I guess we should go to Greenwich Village to go see the Doctor Strange. I'm like, no, you're there. Take care of these jerks. And then they get the idea, too. Again, this is where I wanted to say about the pacing and where you're going. You spend a lot of time in the first issue watching the Avengers get their ass kicked. This issue, you spend a lot of time watching them kicking ass.
Yeah.
But in the end, neither matter. You have let them go this time, and obviously kicking their ass the first time, the Avengers still came back with less members and kicked ass. So that doesn't matter. What matters is your cliffhanger, where you end up having everybody go back to the Sanctum Sanctorum for 2 pages, and one of them is the cliffhanger of suddenly, oh no, Miles, you're a vampire. Like, it just happens. And we know that he met, you got to set this up more. This is your big cliffhanger. And what you said is completely right. What you're getting in cliffhangers is something that they can do that then they can think of, maybe we can do it even worse in the Red Band deal. So you have to have a horrific thing that is just all right, there you go. Like, I mean, you end up having at least Blade chomping down or slicing in half, whichever one you're reading, of the whole Doctor Strange. But in this, it's Miles as a vampire. I'm like sitting there, I'm like, all right, well, there is right next to us is Blade's daughter. Brielle, I think her name is. I wanted to remember the name. Put a stake right to him. Done. And seriously, I like Miles. Maybe a lot of people would be pretty happy.
He's got to be done on this.
Pretty happy if you ended up killing him, but you're never going to do it.
I mean, how do you go back to normal, though, with those teeth? How's he ever going to go back to normal anyway?
You go to a dentist. You get some
that's a lot of work
and stuff. They're going to end up again. Who turned him was with Blade. They're going to do a thing where, again, even before Blade, you're just going to end up killing. You have to have somebody to kill, and then they're all okay. That's all you have to do. That's why
because T'Challa is turned too.
Yeah, and me and Gabe were talking the idea of he thought it was this god who is the main god, but
I'm with you.
To me, you can't kill a god, so I can't remember the first vampire.
Mm-hmm.
If it's at least you can kill him and no fuss, no muss. You don't have to worry about how do you kill a god, even though you get Thor or something like that. But I think that it makes it easier. But from there, everybody. But the problem is then. Tell me the deal. You could get away with a bit of maybe, but Dracula's no longer a vampire then. If you kill that, I didn't even think of this. Like, can you do it that makes and Blade started? Look, there's a lot of characters that it gets a little wonky of not having them be vampires anymore. Though there's not that many vampires. But Dracula, but again, he doesn't seem to have his powers. So what does it matter? He'll get him back. What he'll do is you'll end up. Just imagine this. You end up stopping this one guy, right? Everybody's not a vampire, but somehow there's another one, and they'll just bite Dracula again to be like, oh no, circle of vampirism. It's a circle of life for a vampire. You just start it again.
Say you're, I don't know, 3,000-year-old vampire, right? And then this happens. You just become, what do you become?
I guess dust.
Your sexiest self?
Maybe it's that you just end up, I'm not a vampire. Oh crap, I'm 3,000 years old and I'm dead.
The logic
probably
doesn't work for me, but I don't know. And also, what does he have the time release vampire bite, Miles? Because everybody else, when they get bitten in this, they turn immediately. He took like hours.
Again, he had this like little disc floating thing with him at one point, and I don't know, but all of a sudden it's like, oh no, and like, and that's the idea too, because these are the characters that separated. Dracula sent them, and they're there. Even then, where you have and Blade's daughter wants to find Blade. Where's my dad? Oh no, now Miles is a vampire.
Mm-hmm.
And the Avengers just are not even, they're there, but not even like really.
I like that other
involved.
Avengers team we saw in the Avengers book. I like that team better. Yeah.
They're trying to track down Nazi vampires right now. But again, kind of fun. But at the end, what would you give this?
I'm higher than the last issue. I'll give this one. I think I might. I'll 7 for me on this one.
6.5. I think
I'm going up a little
better.
bit.
I'm just going to stay the same. It has its own problems, and it feels like the big book is thinking it's big by just having fight. And what's going to happen? I'm afraid now. It may not, but I'm afraid now the next round is, now the Avengers are going to get their ass kicked again, and then the Blood Covenant again, and then the Avengers, and that just doesn't seem right.
I gotta say, my favorite vampire trope, one of them at least, is when the vampires get burned up in the sun. I love that.
Yeah, so
it's a missed opportunity here for like when the sun got shining down. I would love to have seen one of those Blood Coven get burned up. That would just one of them.
Yeah, I mean, would it be razor wire?
It doesn't matter, and it's just screaming and it's burning. I love that.
Funny.
Yeah,
and then you're like, oh no, but
maybe in the Red Band it'll happen.
Yeah, you get a couple extra pages and a different cliffhanger. But again, it'll be that the thing will be Miles ripping his face apart or something more than this, probably, or something like that. Or we'll see.
We're going to have to send me screenshots because we don't get that copy.
Yeah. We'll have to have people send it. But we're done with that. We'll move on to the next book. And again, it'll be a book that it got a little better last issue, and now we're at a big issue, number 50. And that book is, of course, The Amazing Spider-Man, number 50, Legacy number 944. I'm saying that because I will bring that up as we go. When they give editor's notes, they kind of drive me nuts. I don't know if everybody else thinks the same, but it kind of drove me nuts. But we end up having this number 50 issue written by Zeb Wells, Ed McGuinness on pencils, inks by Mark Farmer, colors by Marcelo Menez and Eric Arcienega, and VC Joe Carmagnon. Letters, we're going to be dealing with the main story, which is oversized. It's the Zeb Wells story that they were pushing about Spider-Goblin. We'll get there, a little convoluted way, but still not that bad. It's actually better than a lot of the stuff Zeb Wells has done. It's just going to come down to the idea if you want to see Spider-Goblin, even when we saw that 6 months ago. And they'll have tie-backs and callbacks of that in the story. which I thought was a bit of a misplay. When
yeah, it was kind of weird.
Craven's like, I gotta find my spear that actually gave the goblin sins to Peter before, but then had Norman and this. Oh no, it's not there. We already know this. We already saw Norman affected by the sins. We were just waiting for them to take over. This is where it happens in kind of an abrupt way, a weird way, but we start out in the living brain facility of Oscorp in the sub-basement clean room. We already had those yucks that were on the phone, weren't supposed to be. Nobody wants to admit it was their fault. Norman seems to realize it probably was, but these guys should be fired. Norman kind of says, I'm going to fire them. These guys should have been fired before, and that old coot that came in, you can't use your phones. Yeah. That guy was right. So it's sending out that living brain is here. And again, if people know what the living brain is, not know what the living brain, at this point, the living brain is doing nothing that is nefarious or bad.
Just hanging out.
It's trying to hang out and send a message. And at a point, it's doing that. And then after the fact, have to explain to you, it's killing itself by doing that. I'm like,
I didn't get that part. I just it's using tools when it starts printing stuff out.
It's using its mind powers to basically, it's killing itself to type out a little bit of a dot matrix thing that looks like a ticker tape,
like an old school stock ticker.
That's what it looks like. And they're there, and it's like, Peter Parker is nuts. But the big thing of this is that it's supposed to be Peter's upset because the living brain knows his identity. It's down in the sub-basement, so nobody can figure this out. And what I love about the idea is that at a point, they are describing this. And am I the only one that they're describing it as if they are trying to convince us that this is great for the living brain? The living brain's having a ball. Oh, he's down the sub-basement. Nothing's happened. It's not harmful. He's doing this. I'm like, it's a living brain that isn't allowed to think. And when it does get to think, it's trying so hard that it's killing itself to write out a ticker tape little fortune cookie that says Peter Parker is not Spider-Man. Like, the idea that they're saying, I'm like, you guys are fooling yourself. You're trying to make it that you're not bad people, but you are. So while this is going on, these two yucks are freaking out. And really what it should be is like, I told you with that phone, jerk. The other one, I'm screwed. I need this job.
One of them is Dr. Kurt Connors.
Yeah, the ticker tape comes with Kurt, and he reads it, and he's like, oh my God, I love this. It's get me Peter Parker.
It's funny because when you look at it, it reminds me of back in the day. Remember the 20s when somebody would read the stock ticker and then they would jump out the
right
window.
Out the window. It's like a Simpsons deal. He's like, oh no. They're jump out. And
there goes my money.
And he's like, oh no, jumps out the window. In the meantime, Al Capone's dancing the Charleston on a flagpole.
Exactly.
All that stupid crap. Yeah. So you end up where it's like, oh my God, I love the idea that it says Peter Parker is not Spider-Man. Oh no, get Peter Parker. I know he works there, whatever. I love the idea that they think, oh no, this machine just spit out that he's not Spider-Man. We better tell him that.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, get Norman Osborn. It would be my guess. He's the boss.
It says they're making a list of people that it's not.
Yeah, I love that they try to figure this out. And I like that. Like,
start with Peter Parker.
I want to have Kurt at one point. He's like, wait a minute, I just thought of this. That's a lot longer list than who really is Spider-Man. There's one person who's Spider-Man. There is 3.2 billion people who aren't.
Exactly.
Are we going to have to sit here and wait?
Got to start somewhere, I guess.
I love that. And then I have to keep track. All of a sudden it comes over. Matt Razor is not, okay, write that down. Matt Razor. He isn't Spider-Man. Get Matt Razor. Like all of a sudden you have to go there now. They're gathering up people. But they're going to get a hold. And you're supposed to think that it's telling everybody that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Saying the opposite. Then we go off where I just, this cold open, which we already had a cold open, we go to Peter, who now is having problems with a real estate guy who was taking sus real estate photos out on a window washing platform that Peter might have thought was a peeping Tom. And he ends up going to do this. I'm like, I don't know, because what ends up happening, I'm like, I think that you might be the male version of Doc Ock's girlfriend, because that's who it reminds me of right away. I thought that the art with that ended up reminding me of Janine, or now I even messed up the name. I can't remember her name now. But you end up where that's being played out, where then Peter gets a call from Norman. You have to miscommunicate things because he's there, and then the big joke is Norman says, don't rent in Chelsea, buy. Again, now the next thing you know is what? And now this guy jumps out the window.
Yeah, when you're a billionaire.
He gets the ticker tape. Oh, no. like is that Zeb Wells like, oh, you got those Chelsea real estate guys? I'm like, let's get to it. So desperately trying to get a hold of him. And again, this is to tell him you need to come to Oscorp because we have problems with the living brain. In the meantime, they're making jokes about, real estate in Chelsea.
Credit scores.
Yeah, credit scores where Peter's credit score is bum. And that's the funny thing. Peter goes, my credit score is like an atomic crater. And I want Aunt May to walk by and like, you think yours is bad, jerk? Like, we never really resolved the idea that she was flat broke, had to live other places. Just nonsense. But yeah, and then you end up where it's that miscommunication of you have Spider-Man's like, hey, what do you guys think you're talking to? There's a smoking crater. I need this. And like he's going to punch him. And then he says, I need to tell Kirk Connors not to touch anything. The guy says, is that your mortgage guy? I'm like, let's get out of the scene. Like, there's no reason. He zips off.
That's a cool looking page there where he zips off.
Pretty cool. I like the art. He goes then, and when you said the idea to me where Peter does at points looks a little bit like plumper, not to shame him. Here he does. Where
a couple pages down, he looks even
now
worse.
To me at this point, now he becomes Peter Parker, frat dude.
Or he's only does
keggers.
He only works on his neck. That exercise to work on your neck.
He's got some weird looks there, right? So they end up where he goes up and they're like, "Oh my God, we had problems and the living brain's activating. He's talking. He's like, how could he talk? We don't know, but we think it might be this, that." And the big thing is the analog signal carried a message, a query really, and an odd one. Who is Spider-Man? But never really say why or how this. It's just that was, and then he answered the question of who isn't, and that's where the guy's like, I think that he's telling us who isn't. Like, yeah, but that doesn't make sense. Come on. And then all of a sudden, more things start sparking, flying, and another ticker tape deal, another message. But of course, we don't get it right away. He grabs that to take it to Norman to get exactly where he needs to be to spell out this. We don't know what it's saying, but it ended up giving us words: Chalice, Starlight, Peter, don't. And then but what's happening? Norman's trying to stop him because there's one more word. But it opens up the closet, and there you go, Gold Goblin, right?
Yeah, no big deal, Gold Goblin stuff.
And he even says, "You got me. I'm the Gold Goblin." I'm like, all right, you're joking now. And he goes, oh no, there's one more word. This is big though when he does this and opens up, and it's the Goblin suit, which always freaks me out. Doesn't it freak you out, that face?
Yeah, this blank face. Yeah. Oh, the actual Goblin. So yeah. Oh, like Eric's tattoo.
Yeah, it looks a lot like that warped up deal. I hate the face without somebody in that mask.
Yeah, no, the mask is crazy without anybody in it.
And Norman flips out. Now he's reverted to Goblin.
Yeah, just like a flick of the switch. He's Goblin all of a sudden.
Yeah, I remember he wanted Peter there to watch him, but now he's seen it and he activated it. Oh my God, the Goblin stuff. And no, Norman, I trusted you. Well, you're not talking to Norman anymore, jerk. Norman's not here, and we're going to play that. It doesn't matter now. In my mind, again, you're not going to get out of this, and they will if they try. But if you're going to make Norman the Goblin, make him the Goblin. We understand this is this personality deal of him, but it's still him. But they're playing the idea of, it's not Norman. Is Norman just going to be able to continue after this, as he is? I don't think so. But we'll see. He gasses Peter, who gets knocked out a bit, and then ends up where he kind of, now you don't have the spider sense, you have all this. He's tossing goblin grenades over his freaking, back and talking about the idea that, hey, I got to send everybody home. Priority one, I need the place clear, because he wants to go zipping through the hallways as the Goblin to fight Spider-Man. And he's just being controlled by the Goblin. And again, I don't know why, to me, this doesn't feel as big as it should. It should be like something huge. And I just don't know the play of how it did. It just didn't get me that much.
It's the return of the Green Goblin after like a lot of years, like 5 years or maybe longer. When
it was announced we were going to get, nobody cared. People rolled their eyes again because, again, you kind of get the idea they're not going to make it stick or they're not going to do this. But also, this is big enough. And I'm saying, say people go nuts about this. Why do you have to make Peter the Goblin too? Like, why do you have to add to it by the end?
You don't.
Yeah, because you have the Goblin and he's going around. I still think that for some reason I just didn't have, maybe my reaction is as we're talking, I know that Peter becomes the Goblin. They're just beating the crap out of each other. or at least the goblins beating the crap out of Peter, telling him, get your mask on, let's go, let's do this. You get some really cool pages, really cool art of them battling each other. But then you start to get convoluted. Oh, man, what did you do? They start talking about Peter missing parts of his memory. That then seems to be the play of when you had the goblin itself, but then also this whole Winkler device that, again, I don't even know what the hell it is still.
Yeah, I don't like it.
The idea where, you were doing things and you did them, and I did this with Ashley Kafka, and you don't remember, but we did it, and we do have that thing where Ashley said, we put you on the machine, but didn't end up really saying it yet. But one of the things they bring up, the big play here of, you want to hear how nefarious we were? Remember that false date that they made with that? That was then, and it was because of this. I'm like, really? That is the oomph moment of this whole goblin story, is you didn't remember making that date. And then this is where it says, back in ASM 940. But again, we're in a run that's 0, to 50. We're at 50th issue. That was just a couple issues ago.
4 issues ago, right?
Yeah, why? Yeah, 4 issues ago. Why are you using legacy number for people who are reading this run and would go back to this run? I know that they want to make a bigger legacy deal, but this is only in this run a couple issues ago. It just bothered me.
Well, even that, it was confusing because we didn't know why he was dating her or whatever.
At the point where people were said, and I said, that makes sense because the idea that it seemed like it was Ben Reilly messing with him because Ben Reilly was there at the time.
Yeah, but it didn't seem to me like it was being mind controlled or something.
But what I think happened, maybe, he made the date, then somehow got captured. The Winkler device was used where they implanted a code, but that something has to be wiped out, and they wiped out this date call. So he actually did make the call, but he didn't remember it. That's what I'm saying. That's how it worked to me. Is that big that he was upset and then this date? But it's just to this is the worst idea of trying to retroactively say, remember that? Well, this happened as well, because it just doesn't jive very well. But in that you have an implant of a thing, and even Norman kind of comes out of it. It seems more of a dupe of, oh man, I didn't have a choice to allow the sins back in. You got them during that whole thing with Craven and Kafka, and I didn't want you to have them. That wasn't the case. Peter fought through it. The spear ended up getting buried, but unfortunately the sins got out and got to Norman. It didn't seem like that was anything he was doing. It happened to him. And even this might be a dupe anyway, because he's like, come here. And then he just attacks him again as the living brain is going completely insane to then meld, mold, and grab to them becoming the walking brain.
This just looks like the Brainiac to me.
Yeah, it's just like a Brainiac robot
like the
thing.
robot
it's the
version.
Classic robot version of Brainiac.
Yeah.
To make it this big thing of, now it's the walking brain.
Yeah, he actually calls himself the walking brain.
The walking brain. I'm no longer the
I'm not living
brain
anymore. I'm just walking.
I'm the walking brain. I don't know. I don't want to call it out, but I think this is ableism, letting that guy have legs. That brain didn't have legs. I just want to be a jerk about it. The idea of, that's a big thing. I'm now the walking brain. All right. So then we go and move on there, and you look, there's, and probably with that name, Dr. Connors would clap, but he only got one arm, so he can't do that. So you end up where they're going through all this as Goblin's ripping through the town. He's grabbing Peter, and Peter mentioned, I hope you don't go back to my lab.
Yeah, move.
This is a dupe, because when you say that he just goes back and it's a trap, because he goes in, grabs the whole, what's going to be in this priority version of, there's the bug. Yeah. And he's trying to open it. He opens it and gets sprayed with a spray that eliminates all his powers.
Yeah, because Peter was planning for it.
Peter was planning to do that, and then
I knew you'd come to my lab. I knew you'd look at this.
Yeah, because he tricked him into it. The gas reverse engineered to take away your powers.
Yeah, it's that easy, huh?
Is it just me? But in this, having you say the Goblin has no powers, having not had the Goblin for this long, and knowing that, even if you hate it, Norman did seem to be trying to get through this and try to be something better. Peter beats the living crap out of him.
Oh, yeah.
The minute that he's depowered, he beats the crap out of him.
Yeah, it's a double-page spread of punching the crap out of him.
Is that where we're supposed to think that his thing is coming in? I don't know, because it seems a little too much. But he says, I've seen all this before, Norman. every one of your moves. You're so predictable, but he seems to be getting more and more, and he is just destroying him.
Yep.
While the walking brain keeps saying, I'm the walking brain, and the idea Peter Parker is not Spider-Man. Peter Parker's not Spider-Man. We got your message. No. That wasn't a message. I'm like, oh no, what is he going to say? Because it's so crazy with this idea where all of this comes down to where it seems as if where Peter thought he had a plan to get the Goblin out of plan, thinking this through. And in the meantime, you have the living brain say Peter Parker is not Spider-Man, is a warning. So are you now revealing that he indeed is, but isn't now? Because a warning would be he usually is, but now he's not because he's the Goblin
now. Yeah.
So is his identity revealed to a couple people? I don't know. Because in that, I do like that all the wires and things end up making a pretty cool wavy hair for the walking brain. Cool. Because then the warning is, and again, the warning that the living brain comes up with, that he knew all this stuff would happen that led to this, which seems random, but says Dr. Jekyll was heckled by Peter's pride. So he fed the boy to Mr. Hyde. Oh no, that's the trigger to me, a very long trigger. Like if me and you are working a trigger, you say that's a trigger, I'm like, no, how about this? Goblin. There it is. Peter Parker is a Goblin. There, that's even shorter. He ends up freaking out now, and he is the Goblin in a panel where he's laughing, which I swear to God is swiped right from the last time. We had this exact thing when Peter became the Goblin the first time, but in that one, it was a lot of in the dark, where his eyes were glass.
Yeah, this one's nice and bright and illuminated, and you see all those crazy teeth and everything he's got going on,
and looks a lot like the Joker. But
so
it
does. But so if the Goblin lost his powers, then he's back to being Norman. So why would he still want to change over Spider-Man?
I guess he's not back to Norman. He's back to just a Goblin without powers. He's just a
depowered Goblin?
Yeah, he's still the Goblin, and now he's going to screw Peter by doing this.
I don't know about that, but okay.
But again, to me, if you want to keep saying it feels like Zor-En-Arr Spider-Man. And then out of nowhere, while all this was going on, Kraven just decided it was time for him to dig up that grave with that spear, which he kind of broke out of, but it's still there. And he goes and sees it, and he's like, uh-oh. The sins are no longer we know this. Like, it's Captain Obvious here as Kraven. We already see this. We already saw it at the end. And he's like, oh no, now he's in the thing. But that's where it ends. And
Kraven just doesn't bother with shirts at all, huh? He just...
Nah. Without that vest, you don't know.
Yeah, where's the vest?
I'm telling you, he puts that vest on, and then that's even too cool.
And this is just
shirts.
a stinking clone, isn't it? It's not even the real Kraven, right?
It's the clone son that is now Kraven.
Yeah,
his dad had the contest and stuff, but that's how they kept keeping him going.
I like the classic
It's
Kraven.
funny that they just don't call him Kraven 2 or Kraven 3.
And I want the classic Green Goblin. I don't want Spider-Man as Goblin.
Yeah.
My score's going down on that.
We have Spider Goblin. What's happening? I thought I was actually pretty positive about this.
I mean, it's okay. I think the
Ed
McGuinness art is cool, and I don't know. It's just
it's just like, again, it feels like an issue that you have what you want to get to, but you can't figure out a great way to do it. But this is supposed to be big, and it feels just weird.
And is
the
this
way
the
that
same?
It just happened.
Is this the same living brain? It's got to be that used to follow around the Superior Spider-Man and do all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's the Dan Slott stuff.
Yeah, now it's the walking brain.
Yeah.
So weird.
I liked it better when we would crack jokes and say funny stuff. This is just weird. I don't know.
Well, now they're going to say, like, what are you doing? I'm walking here. That's all he's going to say. Like, everything's going to, they're like, well, who's your favorite actor? J.J. Walker? Like, that's all it'd be. Walker, Texas Ranger. Yeah. Everything with walking in it is what his favorite thing is. I wish I had a Walkman. I am a Walkman. That's what he'll say. But again, that's a big thing to get the walking brain.
I mean, it's just Brainiac, so I don't know.
Crack him wise. But again, maybe he'll be able to figure out how to stay. I don't need the living brain walking to do that, but what would you give this?
It's not going to hit that 8 at that coveted 8 position. It's going to be a 7.5 for me.
I think I'm a 6.5.
Oh, okay.
I wanted it to be. I thought it was better once we started talking about. Again, this is just the main story.
It's pretty convoluted. I mean, it is. There's a lot going on, and
it really Here's the thing: a lot of people want Norman as the Goblin.
I do. I think. I mean, rather than Spider-Man being it.
We get to that after all years. We get to it because Peter, because of the living brain before walking, you got to be living before you walk, right? So you end up where he gives the code to open up the deal. I mean, the living brain's evil as hell. You didn't have to do this. Norman seemed to have it under control, but then couldn't because of this whole reveal. But the idea where all these years and what we get is the living brain ticker tape deal to say it and open it up, boom, goblin. Not even any progression, boom. You have and then just to trigger something to say, oh, remember that Winkler device that we just started mentioning? We had you on it at one point and implanted a thing that I can say a word or a phrase and then you become this. I'm like, how the hell did that happen? And then he's the goblin. Even though Norman was like, I'm sorry, I wanted to take it all myself. But it didn't even play that way. It didn't feel like, at that point, remember when Peter, the last time, he ended up having it because he jumped in front. Ashley was trying to give and turn Norman back into the goblin. And Peter jumped in front and took it. And that was a Peter Parker Spider-Man move. In this, it's like a catchphrase. All right.
Is he gonna put the full uniform on and everything Spider-Man is? Or is it going to be like a different version?
Maybe he has this uniform on now, but he'll probably run off the change. He'll have more changing
But is he going to have a special goblin costume?
I would say that probably that with this, that the depowered goblin will now say to him, come back here and I've got a uniform for you.
Yeah, I got something for you.
I don't know. We'll see. Maybe he'll strip Norman nude and grab that thing and then give him a wedgie or something, unzip his pants.
Well, it looks like the next issue is Sinister Six stuff, so. Where's the John Romita Jr. covers, too? We missed those.
Yeah, mangled up arms and hands. That's what we need. We need more to talk about that. All of a sudden you get there to be like, is Peter getting transformed into the goblin, or is he flashing gang signs? Like he's starting a West Coast, East Coast rap war on the cover. But that's that. We're going to move on to the last book that we're talking about. I thought this was going to be a positive podcast.
Well, there's a lot of other cool-ish stuff in this issue. We just didn't read it.
Man, we're only going with the regular deal. And I'm not even going to take your word for that. But we'll move on to the last issue that we're talking about. And the final issue is Ultimate Black Panther number 4. Written by Brian Hill. Art by Stefano Caselli. Colors by David Coriel. Letters by VC's Corey Petit. I'm going to try to calm down here. We're going to have fun with this one, even though it's kind of what we get. There's nothing that's going to shock you, I think, in this issue, except for the fact that me and you are confused. We think they reveal the mole, and it's somebody that they don't even know who it is. But I don't know if that's really the case. It's weird.
It seems like it is.
It seems like it is, and what it ends up seemingly being is an ex-Dora Milaje warrior who isn't part of Wakanda that we'd never know. If that is the case, because why we're saying this is that at a point after that person is taken care of, T'Challa and the rest really feel like it's like, now that we know that that person was the mole, we now can trust everybody else.
Yep, all good over here. Yeah.
Question, there's nothing, and I don't know. We may be thinking differently than anybody else, and I want to know. I don't want to have a fight about it. I want to know, do you really think that that's it? Because if it is, it pretty much is what we said was the worst case scenario that we were worried about. But once it happens, I even thought to myself, who cares? We just keep going. I want to see more of the things. The problem is we don't get a ton of forward progression. We're still getting the idea of, here is Wakanda. We are hidden for a while. Now we're not. We got to step forward and do things. Let's do it. And at the end, you just end up pretty much getting Killmonger and Storm there in Wakanda to say, we'll help. That's it. Yeah. I mean, case closed. What do you give it? We could just get out of here now. I got shopping to do. But even then, you end up where you have an announcement by Okoye who, and the solicit is funny because the solicit says Shuri takes the throne. What is going to happen? And the thing is, if you look at the cover, these jerks sell that on the cover as
it's nothing to do with that.
And what you're trying to do is Shuri's the dupe. Shuri's the mole. Shuri's the bet. Doesn't have anything to do with that.
She's not at all. She's the hero in this.
Even the fact in this goes so 180 from that because Okoye wants to calm the people. She might be lying a little. She says everything will be fine. T'Challa's out doing things. Your king, I've heard from him. He told me everything's great. He sent me a postcard. You know, he's in St. Louis. Whatever. He's out doing his things. He's going and searching down the killers of his father, and he's going to bring them before justice because nobody stops T'Challa. Nobody stops Wakanda. Wakanda forever. She's inspiring the people.
That's a lot of people she's talking to.
A ton of people. And then everybody's fired up. Shuri comes into her room then to talk to her. I thought ready to talk a lot of crap. Why are you lying? Because even then she says, like, you lied, my queen. And I'm like, oh, crap, things are going to go down. And is this now, in my mind, Okoye's doing this to calm people because she is the bad person working with Ra and Khonshu, and that she's trying to calm them and that she's going to take over now, right? Whatever it would be. But then you lied, my queen. And then the next panel, because her and Shuri are fighting all along, says, but I understand why. Done. She just said, like, I know, and almost saying, listen, I know you're a good person. You did this and that. I gave them what they needed, Shuri, faith. And then, faith I do not have. I got to, find out, do you know anything about your brother? What is he doing? Oh, he's fine. He's rooting him out. He will. And almost at the point where I thought that they were just going to hug and say, like, hey, everything before, like, they're fine now.
Yeah, they seemed pretty friendly.
Last issue.
No, they weren't at all.
They seem like they are now on the same team, ready to go, no problem. Because what we then get in a weird deal, I like Brian Hill, but again, I don't know is this the week that you read the issue through the second or third time and it just shows how weak these things? You have, the idea that you have an assassin coming to take down Okoye, and the thing that ends up ruining it is that they sweat. And the sweat comes, get a roll on. Get some deal. The sweat comes in and lands, and immediately Okoye from a dead sleep says sweat.
Yep. Wakes up, knows exactly what's going on.
Usually what you have in this
jumps out of the bed
is where me and you are searching a corridor for something, and then all of a sudden blood drips, and we look up and there's either a horrifically dead body on the, pinned to the roof, or it's the killer or whatever. Not sweat. That's disgusting.
And how is the killer sweating, too? He's wearing a full outfit.
I know you're in the full outfit, and you're in Africa, but you're also part of that, and you're an assassin. Don't you do something like, man, we really love that girl assassin. The problem is she sweats like a pig. Like, you got to keep her. Well, just put a big outfit on with a mask and wrap her up. I'm telling you, it doesn't work.
It doesn't help.
This lady is like a faucet. Well, then you say, well, what you do then, don't have her attack from right above. Yeah. Don't have her drip down. Have her just walk to the bed and kill.
Walk right up with that big-ass sword she has.
Yeah, she's there. Yeah, it's like Cloud Sword in Final Fantasy VII, for crying out loud. She's there. Huge sword hanging from the roof, sweating. I
would have rather seen, like, dirt fall on her or something like that. Dust or something.
I'm telling you right now and also, look, it's not, I guess you're trying to show the progression of the sweat, but for me, it looks like a leaky faucet. It hits. There is no way in hell that sweat is not dripping right into that mouth. It's right below. You're going to get, just imagine how disgusting that somebody sweats that much and it goes in your mouth.
Hey, at least it's sweat. It could be something else.
They call that the salty shower. That's what they call it. So it ends up where she wakes up sweat. Wakes up, but doesn't attack because Shuri's already there. The attack's already on. Shuri's already there to protect Okoye. And then in a bad move, what reminds me of when you talk to people about basketball and some of the greats, especially shot blockers, the big play is the big highlight film shot block is to friggin' swat it in the second row, right? It's up in the second level, but they get the ball then. So they talk about the idea if the greats where they end up blocking a shot, they'll block it to a teammate. And then you have a fast break.
Or just grab it.
Yeah. Shuri comes in and blasts this lady out the window. Blast her against the wall. Hit her down. You blast her out the window only because you want to give chase for the issue to then end up having T'Challa show up because he's going to show up. So you end up where blast out the window. And I'm talking, this is 7 million. It looks like you're so high up.
It's like 800, 900 feet up.
Goes down. Shuri has to jump down. They both land fine. She's going to chase the blood. It's funny. What happened if it was that? It's just sweat. This woman sweats so much that she can't go anywhere. Like, oh, there's her sweat. And she's slipping. It's all over. And she ends up where she's going to chase down Sweaty McGee here. And she gets in an alley and kind of, bends down. Shuri comes in and says, what's going on? It's the end of the line. And this is like, no, end of Wakanda. But even before that, it's the idea of, I know you're Dora Milaje. Why are you here? Why are you doing this? Because when you come in, we're getting a lot of code words and things. She says, Ishiwa 2,
yeah,
which then freaks out.
It's like some magic stuff.
Yeah, it's like a magic deal. Her eyes start glowing. At this point, I think Storm's the bad, but I thought this might be Storm, the way her eyes went, but it's not. She ends up freaking out. Oh, no, I have a migraine. Oh, God. And then you're going to get an attack them from her, and as they attack, she says, I recognize the stance. That is the Dora Milaje. Yeah, I was in there once. It was way back. You guys trained me. No longer that. And again, by the end, I'm thinking, if this is what was the dupe, the mole, whatever, I don't know how they're getting information. That's what's weird. But it's somebody who's just pretty much saying to you, I am pretty much the epitome of somebody who was mad at Wakanda from something before. Very Killmonger-esque, actually, if you want to go with it. But the idea of, now I'm back for vengeance, but this could be one of a billion people, and it's very generic. And then said, Ra and Khonshu will make me a god if I do this. But that's when they get taken down. And I do like the dagger ends up having the Ankh. And then
yeah, it does, yeah.
And then gets hit, and it's T'Challa out of nowhere. And T'Challa, I love T'Challa's like, the list. He's like, you ain't going to hurt the queen. You're not going to hurt my blood. You're also not going to hurt the stock market because I have a lot of investments. I don't want you to hurt this. Don't hurt my feelings. He goes and then randomly just picks out one of these cubes off of his armor to throw it at her to electrocute her and knock her out for them to say, now we're going to use the Voodoo Khan to go into her mind, see exactly what's happening, who's bad, who's not, where Ra and Khonshu are. And this girl ends up pretty much activating.
She bites the cyanide pill and just blows
basically,
up.
And it's the Ra Khonshu version where all of a sudden light comes out of your eyes, your mouth, and probably a couple other orifices.
Yeah, every orifice.
Old mommy. Right? And she's like, oh no. I'm like, oh brother, what is it? Goddess. I'm like, all right. And it's done. They burn up. They're done. So you have no evidence. You can't do anything. You go back to the Temple of Ra, location unknown, which, I ended up, your Milaje failed. They're talking to each other and like, we wanted this, and ends up sending a message. We do this. Their king is dead. They fear in the ranks. We can all do, like, they're confident that what they have done is fine. You end up where it's more of Khonshu is saying you underestimate T'Challa. And Ra's like, no, I estimate him accurately.
Like I estimate him.
Yeah. And then it's like, he knows our names, not what we are. He knows we seek power, but he does not understand what that power is, and he still believes in his gods, his withering and impotent gods. So they're like, we're here, we're walking. We're like the walking brain. We're walking, bitches. So you end up where when people turn to their kings and see fear, they'll lose. Well, there's a lot of talking here about something that could happen. When, if, there. And just says, when kings turn to their gods and see weakness, they lose everything. I have tired of playing. What he's saying in my mind is, everybody's going to lose faith in T'Challa, but T'Challa's going to lose faith in his gods. But what does that mean anyway? Of like, they're going to come to him? He's never going to come to you. It just ends up being talk and says, I'm tired of playing with spies and assassins. There you go. That's what I thought. Case closed. That Dora Milaje X deal rando was the deal.
Yeah, I think that's it.
How are you going to play along with that? And don't tell me that Brian Hill tried to make it seem like you could play along with it. He wanted you to think of Okoye, Shuri. Even the cover tried to play that, and it ends up being a rando who even dies in a cyanide pill
it's not
type
even
of way.
It's not even a named character. It's just...
No, it isn't even as they're fighting, and things get torn off, and you end up, Shuri say, oh, no, it's you. And we know it's, Michonne, like you said from The Walking Dead, the deal in the movie. Like, make it so it's something. And they're going to die.
I think it'd be interesting if it was the entire Dora Milaje. Like, it was just, they had them all. They had them all. And they were just
again, what do you do
infiltrated.
Now? This is an X-Dora, but what do you do now?
You can't.
Because what they do, what Shuri and T'Challa and Okoye seem to do here, because really, we see them say this. Now I'm thinking of the idea, if you were T'Challa, Okoye, or Shuri, how in the hell are you going to just assume that was the mole when you're like, mole, they wouldn't know anything. They wouldn't get near us. So if that is the case, they're ridiculously idiotic that they wouldn't say, okay, we got to start interviewing. We got to start doing some detective work here because things are getting bad. Yeah. But they almost feel like everybody, because it's the case, it just happens to be, and you get, okay, now we're fine. Let's all get together. Okoye and T'Challa have to yell. how dare you go off and you don't tell me if you're alive or dead? No secrets between us. I think this is to set up the idea that he's going to fall in love with Storm and he won't tell her, but all that going down to then say, all right, we have to gather together. Nobody tell anybody where we're going, not even those two stupid spies that kept coming up again that we thought maybe the part. But we have to go. Nobody can know because I trust you, the inner circle. And in the inner circle, there are two characters that we thought could have been the spy. And really, it was the debate. Most people were debating, is it Okoye or is it Shuri? It's neither, it seems. And you're setting this up unless that's still in the case and you want to see if anybody, because if you don't say anything and somebody shows up here, there's problems. But Killmonger and Storm are there as well. And hey, I want you to meet them. And it's like the pose off at the end. And again, I think that it's okay, but in this, it's a weird play where Brian Hill, maybe this issue disguises some things to make it seem, but nothing really happens. If we ended up finding out that mole inside person was this person we never would have known, could never, that's thudded. And then for the other bit of it, it's just chasing the person down. And that's it.
I mean, there has to be more to it, and it'll become obvious as we read it.
And I said, though, these books are starting, and people get upset, and I'm not going to say, I have to stop myself from saying, like, oh, you jerks who like the Ultimate or don't like Ultimate X-Men and say this book's... I don't care about that. You can like what you want, and people don't like the Ultimate X-Men for a lot of reasons, some of which I understand. It's not really an X-Men book. I told you when I was going to make a video, I think it should have been an Ultimate Runaways book and everybody would have loved it. You may not still like the art, but nobody would have had a problem. It feels more like an Ultimate Runaways book, but that wasn't big enough. I still may make the deal because I had a bunch of things in with that, even including when we had characters from the Runaways show up last issue. But I think everything's waiting for the Ultimates.
Yeah, well, and also the synergy between the X-Men 97 cartoon, which everybody loves right now, the Deadpool movie coming up with Wolverine. You can't. That just doesn't match that at all.
I know that, but I think I said, if you ended up having, and again, telling people who had the problem, even though it doesn't have anything to do with Ultimate Black Panther, but if you end up having an X-Men that's like the equivalent of the Ultimate Spider-Man, oh my God, who's going to even touch the stuff that's coming out then from Gail Simone and Jed McKay? You're already going to get what you wanted. I think that you can't do that.
That's why they're doing it that way.
Like
that's
they're rebooting. We cannot have this.
It's just it's unfortunate timing.
It is. Again, call it Ultimate Runaways.
Yeah, I like that better.
I don't think anybody has an issue. And you can play the game of as they end up where we find out. Because remember, the Runaways kids who find out their parents were evil.
Criminals.
So they had to run, right?
Super
they had
criminals,
to disappear.
Yeah.
So what you do is you have that book where these characters in school, they find out that, oh my God, the world's being controlled by villains, which it is in the Ultimate Universe. The villains are controlling the continents. And in fact, their teachers and all these things are watching to make sure that if anybody shows any signs of mutant or anything like that, they get taken in. Runaways, they're running away. Yeah, but I think it would work fine. My video just was made. That's what I was going to talk about. And then people would be like, okay, Runaways is a side book. Everything gets to a point where you're not that fired up. X-Men is too big, and to have people so back and forth divisive about the art and things like that, it doesn't play out well. So, but this Ultimate Black Panther, it's in a holding pattern. I mean, 4 issues where we have really set up one thing. There is a mole, and now we find out that it really wasn't anybody we knew, and now we can get forward. Mm-hmm. I still like it enough. We're not getting another Black Panther. I like this way better than Eve Ewing's Black Panther.
Is that still going on?
No, that got canceled.
Okay, good.
Again, it was a mess. And again, that's where, again, when you have this with Ultimate Black Panther, it's in a different way of, okay, we can get a pretty cool Black Panther. But I think that most people forget about this book. If you're going to talk about one or the other or whatever, you're going to talk about Ultimate Spider-Man because everybody seems to love it. And then you're going to talk about the fighting in the Ultimate X-Men. If it is an X-Men book, you like the art, you have a lot of things to go with. But I do think that these books, even Ultimate Spider-Man that we had a dinner party that we got yelled at that we didn't love, still like the series. But I think everything's waiting because the Ultimates ends up revealing to the world they're superheroes. Now we can start getting things moving. Can't do that before that.
Mm-mm.
So we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. Now
what's your score?
My score for this is See, I still want to give it a 6, but we ended up. I'm a 5.5.
I'm 7.5.
I'm a 5.5. I like the art, but nothing is happening.
No, nothing is happening. But I'm still on board. I think I just want to see how it plays out. It's got to be more to it than we see, but who knows?
I think there will be. I think, and again, June next month, Ultimates, and I guarantee you that things will pick up after that in all the books. That all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, did you hear there was this Avengers team, the Ultimates? They're doing. Hey, you know what? I want to be a superhero.
Who's writing that?
It is Dennis Camp.
Okay, so
okay.
See how he does.
And so there's also what you would assume that some of the heroes in this universe might be captured. They might be imprisoned. They might be held. Like in my mind, we may see that like a Wolverine is being experimented on or held in that they're going to start breaking people out. They're going to do this, and it's cool. Yep. I think everything picks up, but we'll see.
I agree.
But that is it. And in fact, I still don't know. We might add things that would cause a lot of me having to edit. But if I look right now and I can see what's coming out next week, we'll just do that right now. And then I won't have any problems coming up. And I'm going to hit this and I know it's... Nope, it does not say. So with all of that, if I can do this real quick and figure out the deal, this stinks. I thought I could just go... Usually what I do is go right off of the... comic book roundup to get the things. I'm loading up another thing.
I go to marvel.com. That's my tried and true.
Here we go. This is what we would be possibly talking about next week. We have something that we haven't been talking about, but I think it is the finale Avengers Twilight number 6. It's actually been pretty decent. I think it's actually gotten better as it went on. The way we kind of dropped that at one point, but I think it's okay.
It's the final issue, yeah.
Yeah, it's the final issue. So we'll see, because we also have Black Panther Blood Hunt number 1.
That could be interesting.
Which we kind of do want to get most, that seems to be a bigger one. I believe that this is written by a person who I didn't really know, Cheryl Lynn Eaton, who's writing it. It seems to want to tie in that T'Challa's bloodline leads back to the vampires. I remember hearing an interview and it didn't really jive, but we'll see. But we'll have to talk to the people on the X-Men side of things, Jason, because we have Helverine.
Looks
pretty cool.
That might be something for us.
I believe it. Isn't it Ben Percy who's doing it? It's like the combo.
Stegman art, though. That
I know, and I'd like to do that. And again, I think that would be kind of cool. We have, if we want to, we have Jackpot and Black Cat. People were asking for a review the last time, and I didn't get to it, and it was pretty bad still.
Mm-hmm.
But we have Midnight Suns Blood Hunt.
Isn't that a video game?
It might be, but it's also the Midnight Suns going after their guy Blade, it seems. So that's kind of cool. And it's Brian Hill who is doing the Blades. That seems like that would be a one that we will do. We'll try to do that, right? So then we just going down this list, and I'm like, I don't think we're doing Night Thrasher. We have something that we like, Spider-Boy number 7.
Spider-Boy.
That's our guy. That's our Spider-Boy right there. We have Ultimate X-Men number 5.
Boom.
And that's it.
Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah, Ultimate Spider-Man. That's a pretty big book.
Okay, some options.
It's a big book. So I think that you can count on us doing probably, would you want to do Midnight Suns? If it was a pick between that and Black Panther, I think the Midnight Suns book we would do first.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
And then probably the Spider-Boy, Ultimate Spider-Man. We'll see if we have time. And if we do, we'll mix in another one like the Helverine.
I would say that if X-Men doesn't want to do Helverine, then we should do that one. If not, they can do that.
So we'll figure it out. Maybe I can get some other people to help out as well. So there you go.
If it's it doesn't have the X-Men crap on the cover, so it's kind of independent.
Yeah, again, it's the Ghost Rider meets Wolverine that you had in the series of the Ghost Rider. Like, I don't think that they're going to be involved with that. We'll see. We're not going to force them into it, because in the meantime, they have a couple of the X-Men books like Rise of the Powers of 10, and that might be it, but that's enough.
I think Jason calls it Powers of X. But...
Okay, well, they have that, and we have Wolverine number 50.
Oh, yeah. Wow, that's a big one.
Yeah, it's a huge one.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually enjoyed the Saber-Tooth War, but in the middle issues, it felt like that Victor LaValliere was doing more of the writing, and all we were getting were those exiles, and I don't like them that much. So I ended up wanting. What's that?
It says Larry Hama's the writer. That's interesting.
But I'm sure that it's an oversize with other things involved. But we'll get. the idea that they've been hinting and show that adamantium armor, and then like we're finally going to get like it in action. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's cool.
But yeah, it's the final battle, and this just says Ben Percy and Victor Lavalier on this thing. I see Creed versus Logan final showdown. It is I know it says including Larry Hama, as well as a final send off from Ben Percy and Javi Fernandez, and some special surprises. So you have they're celebrating the 50 years of Wolverine with 50th issue and the end of Saber.
Jason and Ruben better talk about every page.
Damn right.
It's going to be oversized.
Just like we did with that ASM earlier.
Exactly.
That's what Jason will say to me. We're talking about as much. They actually probably will. We're the lazy ones. So
it's going to be 2 hours.
But with all that, yeah. But there you go. So I guess Wolverine will be for us because they won't want to deal with it. So we'll do that. We'll see how it is. We'll go. But again, best book that we're looking forward to, Spider-Boy. So we'll do that. Not many people say that.
Yeah, I'm saying it.
This week, people, if they're paying attention at home, we did not talk about the Superior Spider-Man. We found out
I read it. It was
canceled.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be okay.
One more
it
issue.
Just ends up where what it ended up doing, I said it before, you have these like Peter David going back to a story. That's what this feels like too soon.
It's too soon.
How it ended as just one arc, it should have been 10 years from now where he goes back because nobody cares about Supernova and the nonsense now. Like, it's just made up.
You think Dan Slott will make it another 10 years?
No.
We got to get him now then.
Can we just play that? It's like dog years.
Or maybe you can write the stuff now and then they can release it later.
They could use it. What you do is you make the Dan Slott AI. Unfortunately, don't let it out in the world because it'll hate on everyone and block people on Twitter. That's all it'll do. And then in the meantime, it'll pump it. Actually, what you do is they end up, they're there. Okay, we did it. We got the AI version of Dan Slott's brain. He can continue writing. And then the first person who has a brain says, when are we getting the Christos Gage AI that can continue the series when the AI of Dan Slott gives up or gets distracted? Is what you need to do. That's people even make the joke. It's like Dan Slott, or as he goes by his pen name, Christos Gage.
Exactly.
Makes me laugh. It happens every time. Every time. But
it always does.
Actually, you say that, and I know that the way they spell out these things, sometimes they don't quite know that there is a fill-in. I'm looking at Spider-Boy right now.
He doesn't have Christos Gage on here.
Yeah, it says Dan Slott, so we'll have to see, but that might not be the case, so we'll have to see there. But boy, even that cover looks fun. Mm-hmm. But
the Squirrel Girls?
You know what the problem is? If you look at the main cover, it does look like a tie around of, hey, everybody was involved, even that crazy Thor Avenger combo
the little action
toy.
Figure. Yeah.
It seems like that's a wrap-up issue, doesn't it? It seems like this is like one of those,
It's winding down.
Yeah. It's done its deal. We had fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
People didn't like it.
Don't overstay your welcome, you know?
Yeah, really. Really, that's like that David P. Post Punisher book.
Exactly.
Actually, 4 issues. It did overstay its welcome by 5 issues, it felt like, by the end of that piece of crap book. But that is it for this week. A crappy deal and me cursing a lot. So there you go. But that's that. So thanks, everybody. I hope that you enjoyed yourself, had a couple chuckles, and I mean, things can be better. I think people will like some of these a little more than us, but we were having fun with it. So with all that, thanks, and we'll talk to you later.
Mm-hmm. You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.